taking a flight today. You know what happened? We were supposed to take the bullet train all the way to Nagasaki, but what happened was we didn't get our JR passes validated. I was actually panicking at Shinagawa station because we had these passes, we couldn't use them, and they told me at the office it was like 6, not even 6 o'clock in the morning yet. They told me, oh, you have to wait till 9 o'clock at this station if you want to have the ticket office open. And I was like, no. So this office opened at 6:45 a.m. But we went through this crazy subway thing. We really got out of the way. Yeah, we went way out of the way, got lost. So we did get here, but it's like a 40-minute wait to just get your pass validated. So moral is get your passes validated on time when you can, because you're gonna end up like us. We were supposed to get to Nagasaki at 1 p.m. today, and at the earliest now it's gonna be 4 p.m. Sucks. So don't do that. Just get it validated on time.
Get it validated on time. I'm here on a bullet train from Nagasaki to Hiroshima, and it's an amazing experience being on it. It's going at, these are some of the fastest trains in the world. It's probably going around 300 to about a little more than 300 miles an hour.
No, it's about
at its peak.
275.
275 at its peak. And when you're on it, you really feel like you're about to take off, but it's just never going to take off, obviously. But it's a great experience. I rode one in Paris about 10 years ago, and those were pretty good too. I think they were called a TGV.
So what do you think about the green car?
And this is a nice green car. What green car means is basically the luxury car line.
Yeah.
So you pay a little bit more, but you get more. Let me see if I can show you. See, you can go down. Oh, it doesn't go down that much, but it goes down a little bit. It's a long way, but one thing that we learned is you need to go to the rail ticket office to get your Japanese rail pass official.
It is a really amazing train. It feels like the whole time you're like
levitating.
The moment you're about to take off on an airplane, but you never do because it's like it just stays on the ground. But it is really cool, a cool way to travel in Japan, and you have to buy your Japan Rail Pass in the United States or whatever country you're coming from, because if you come to Japan, you will not be able to get it.
You pay the full price then.
You pay full price. And it's cool because you get like VIP treatment. Every time there's a gate where you have to put your pass in, you just show someone your pass and they open up the gate and you go right through.
Yeah.
So we have a couple more hours on the next train. We're getting ready to go because you have to get ready to actually get all your bags, be ready at the stop. If you start getting ready at the stop, you're gonna miss it, and you're gonna be way beyond your next stop.
Yeah, far away.
So we're gonna get to Nagasaki a bit late. It's gonna be about 5 o'clock. Sometimes you have to learn on the trip.
Yep,
So
that's part of the learning experience.
Let that be a lesson to you guys.
You sometimes have to do it the wrong way first.
Yeah, we're really lost. We only slept 2 hours. So we gotta get to the next station now. Unlike the pipe dream of high-speed rail in California that cost taxpayers billions of dollars for rail service that will never come to fruition, Japan has amazingly effective high-speed services. We are headed for the 750-mile journey to Nagasaki from Tokyo. 664 of those miles are on the bullet train, or also known as the Shinkansen Nozomi, for under 5 hours. The final leg of the trip is on a traditional train for under 100 miles in 2 hours. The bullet train should be able to go all the way to Nagasaki after the extension project is completed, making it even faster to get there. Nozomi, or known as Wish or Hope, is the fastest train service running on the Tokaido and Sanyo Shinkansen lines in Japan, which are also known as the bullet trains. The service stops at only the largest stations and alongside the stretch between Shin, Osaka, and Hakata.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will soon be making a brief stop at Izen.
We are on the bullet train going to Nagasaki. It's such a cool car we're in. This is like the luxury car here. We had such a great experience going through the wrong door, of course.
Oh yeah, you want to go through the right door when you go on the trains, because it's a hassle to go through all the aisles and people look at you like you're a dumb maybe. So.
Maybe we were.
Maybe we were dumb.
They're burning garbage back there. This is where all the combustible garbage ends up.
Almost half a century ago, this area obviously was...
Wasn't that more than half a century ago?
It wasn't 100 years ago. Okay, more than half a century ago. The U.S. nuked Japan to end World War II. What's interesting about this area, though, is it looks great, but a lot of people show modern pictures of Detroit that looks like crap. And then people ask sometimes, so which city was attacked, Detroit or Nagasaki? And if you didn't know anything, you would think Detroit was the one because it looks like crap. Whereas this looks fine. Everything looks great here.
This is outside in the hypocenter park. They have a ground level exhibit where you see what it looked like the moment that the bomb actually hit. It had all this mess. They left it preserved just as it was in 1945. What a mess. We're here in Nagasaki at the hypocenter park. This is actually a really strange place to be in because it's actually right at the epicenter of where the atomic bomb was dropped from the air. It was actually exploded in the air, but this is that steeple you see behind us. That's actually the spot where the bomb was dropped in the air.
It really it caused quite a bit of damage. When you see pictures of the city, it looks nothing like it does today. Now it's a modern city with a lot of vibrant economy here.
7-Eleven. Seems like it's in every city. This, we're at a Japanese style barbecue.
It's very, very good. This miso soup here. Every time we get more miso soup in Japan, the next place is always better than the last place, and it's always amazing.
What's interesting is we're actually on the floor. Look at how low we are. You actually put your feet under this table. You can't see it because it's too dark, but yeah, you have to take my word for it.
And you have to take your shoes off.
You have to take your shoes off. 17, poor dog. He's so cute.
Oh, hopefully
Hopefully you find a new home. He wants me to take him.
after some
Raw would like him to.
he probably doesn't get very big.
Wow, look at all this stuff you could win in one of these arcade type places. And of course, Winnie the Pooh. I wonder if this is legit. It says Disney on it, so it must be real. I'm not good at these games, so I'm not even gonna try. We're here in Nagasaki, Japan, at the Forza Hotel, and you got pretty good space here for Japan. This is a pretty big room. Got even a couch. Of course, we never use it. This is for our junk because we have a lot of suitcases. So as you can see, over there you have kind of like a tea area. We never really used it because they didn't give us tea. They actually gave us. You wouldn't believe, in Japan, they give you original blend drip coffee bag, no tea. I mean, in the U.S., you expect that, but not here. Then they also give you these, in Japan it's very normal for them to give you these free smartphones, which we don't use because we have our own SIM card, so I don't really need it. And the room, you got your beds. The area is really good, centrally located. It's kind of like a mall, I want to say, but it's not a mall. It's a pretty cool area, but if you want to go to the Atomic Bomb Museum, you do have to take like a train or walk for like 45 minutes from here. So either way, it takes about 45 minutes with a train or without a train. So it's your choice. But if you want to see the other areas around here, it's pretty cool. But you still have to, it's funny because I noticed every time you go somewhere in Nagasaki, you pretty much go up the same streets. No matter where you're going, we ended up going on the same exact path every time. So kind of a weird town. It's small. You can walk through it. I think it's only like 400 or 500,000 people live in here. So it's like kind of reminds me of Moab, Utah.
That town only has 10,000 people.
So this is bigger than that. This is the view from our room at the Hotel Forza in Nagasaki, Japan. We're on the 9th floor. You don't have much of a view except for some rooftops. But it does the job. If you want to go to see some of the sights around town, it's a pretty good location. And here's Michael throwing out the trash. Downstairs here. There's a 3-story Starbucks over here. We're on the 2nd floor. Yep. I think the second floor is actually better than the 3rd floor. Yeah, it seems to be more spacious and a better view. Ah, look at that.
Yeah, I can't do this.
Michael found the perfect spot here.
That's so good.
It's so amazing that this is actually a Starbucks. Too bad we...
Danny also doesn't want to be outside because it's about 60 degrees outside right now, so he's cold.
And Michael is stretching his head from the fleas. Sink here. That's something you don't see
Take a seat to watch it.
very often. There's a seat.
Almost feel tempted to use it just for the video. I'll do it for you guys.
Start. Thank you. Arigato. Starbucks. Yeah. All the way to the top. 3rd floor.
It's a nice Starbucks. But it's even better being outside in the cold, to be honest, because when you're in there, for some reason I was falling asleep. I don't know why.
Oh, you don't like? There's nice music they play in there.
They play nice music and like, oh, this is great to fall asleep to.
This is the top of a gatepost from a school that was about 2,000 feet north of the hypocenter. That's almost 0.4 miles from the blast zone, where it still caused it to break off. The heat rays melted the cement at the top into a glassy substance. When you look closely enough at the slab of cement, you can see the grains of glass which were exposed directly to the heat rays about 0.6 miles away from the hypocenter. These are melted roof tiles with bubbles. The closer the distance to the hypocenter, the larger the bubbles are. The brown discoloration came due to the fire after the bombing. Here are bamboo with scars from the heat rays that were about 2.5 miles from the blast zone. The surface exposed to the atomic bomb heat rays turned black. These coins were piled in a stack when exposed to the heat rays, but because of the difference in melting point, some of the coins fused together, which is evidence of the immense heat instantaneously released by the atomic explosion. This was a vase that melted down to an indistinguishable formation that was found in a residence only 650 feet from the hypocenter. These are 6 melted bottles found in the ruins of a store only 1,300 feet from the hypocenter. They melted at the top and stuck together. This is a spool of wire melted into one thick ring as a result of the exposure to the extreme heat and subsequent fires. It looks like it is actually still falling apart on the display case. Here's a melted white substance that is a hard object, melted completely out of recognition. You can imagine walking around here trying to figure out what this all was in the aftermath of the bombing. This is a single melted glass bottle. I wonder if it was full at the time. This is a robe worn by a Buddhist priest exposed to heat rays from behind at the Michino railroad station about 2.2 miles from the hypocenter. The heat rays and blast burned and tore holes into the fabric of the robe. Dark colors absorb heat better than light colors, and so they burn much more easily. The paper currency even got burn marks from the heat inside the fabric. It's incredible it burned just enough to be able to know what it was without completely disintegrating. Here is a staircase from a school located under a mile from the hypocenter. Glass splinters hurled by the blast are stuck in the wood. A leather belt worn by a resident died in the atomic bomb in his garden about a half a mile away from the hypocenter. Blood stains remain on the belt that he was wearing at the time. An iron sheet that was part of the roof of the Mitsubishi Nagasaki arms factory that was under a mile away from the hypocenter was torn off the roof like a scrap of paper. Check out this rice chest that was exposed to the atomic bombing in a shelter less than a mile from the hypocenter. The huge difference between the pressure and the explosion and the air pressure inside the shelter caused a ferocious gust of wind to rush inside the shelter, full of rice and sealed tightly with a lid. This tin chest buckled under the pressure from all sides, and the rice inside it turned black as a result of the heat. This lightning rod was attached to the roof of the Mitsubishi Nagasaki arms factory about a mile from the hypocenter. It was scorched black and bent out of shape by the heat rays and the blast. These copper name plaques affixed to the bridge posts of the two bridges spanning the lower Urakami River between 1,000 and 1,700 feet from the hypocenter face towards the blast. There's some graphic video that will be shown from the museum that you may find offensive. A worker at the Mitsubishi shipyard at the time of the atomic bomb survived the blast. When he came home, he was expecting to find his 4 children's dead bodies, but all that remained were these clumps of clay hardened like rocks. This one is really graphic. It's an exhibit of bones of a human hand stuck to a clump of glass that was melted as a result of the extreme heat. This is a photo taken of a student that was burned by the direct blast and flash of heat. His left shoe was torn off, and the insulator from an electricity pole was burned into his shoulder. We actually went inside the museum, and what's interesting is you actually see like the clock where the time was stopped at 11:02 when the bomb was dropped, which was quite an interesting thing to see, because I actually heard about that when I was in high school. You read about this stuff, but actually seeing it with your own eyes is really interesting. And then you see some of the more graphic stuff, because you kind of see what the destruction of the bomb actually did. So it's definitely a must-see. And I think coming out to Nagasaki is kind of something you probably should do, just because, actually seeing things with your own eyes and understanding it, you get a much better perspective than just reading in the history books. The museum opens with a room dedicated to the city as it was just before the bomb decimated Nagasaki. A clock which stopped at 11:02 The precise time the bomb hit the city is also on display to demonstrate how so many people were killed in an instant. The industrial damage in Nagasaki was high, leaving 68 to 80% of the non-dock industrial production destroyed. It was the second and to date the last use of nuclear weapons in combat, and also the second detonation of a plutonium bomb. The first combat use of a nuclear weapon was the Little Boy bomb, which was dropped on the Japanese city of Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. And that's the city we'll be traveling to after this one. The Fat Man bomb was somewhat more powerful than the one dropped over Hiroshima, but because of Nagasaki's more uneven terrain, there was less damage. It gives a poignant picture of much of the damage that was created instantly and changed the landscape of Nagasaki forever. The museum is designed in such a way that the audience can see just what the effect the bomb had on the city, the reconstruction, and the lasting effects of the atomic bomb. Among the deaths were 6,200 out of 7,500 employees of the Mitsubishi munitions plant and 24,000 others, including 2,000 Koreans who worked in other war plants and factories in the city, as well as 150 Japanese soldiers. The surrender of Japan was announced on August 15, 1945, 6 days after the bombing of Nagasaki. The end of the war disenchanted the survivors. Nagasaki resident Seiji Nagano recalled, "Why?" we asked. "After everything we did to try to win the war? What purpose did it serve? So many people died. So many homes have burned down. What will we do now? What will we do? What will we do?" When the bomb was dropped at 11:02 a.m. on August 9, 1945, the 20 neighborhoods within a 1-kilometer radius of the hypocenter was completely destroyed by the heat flash and blast winds generated by the explosion. They were then reduced to ashes by the fires which followed. Within 2 kilometers of the hypocenter, roughly 80% of the houses collapsed and burned. When the smoke cleared, the area was strewn with corpses. One has to wonder how the people of Nagasaki would feel about the atomic weapon if they used it on U.S. soil.
When you're here, you get the sense that Japanese they're not upset at America per se with regard to dropping a bomb. They seem like a lot of the people are opposed to nuclear weapons in general. Probably they kind of don't want it to be used again in the future, even though there's some suggestions that Japan may be developing nuclear weapons to protect itself from external threats that exist. So it's an interesting thing how they have to develop nukes to prevent other powers from doing things.
Yeah. Oh yeah, another interesting thing is I always actually thought that Nagasaki would be dangerous to visit because I thought that there would be a lot of radiation, which I think there is slightly more than normal, but it's still probably safer than just being on normal sunlight. At 11:02 in 1945, August 9th, I believe, that's when the bomb actually was exploded. It was so dramatic that a lot of glass and steel was melted. You actually had shadows on like fences, and it's really kind of a crazy memory to have, just the shadows of people that were standing around wherever, ingrained in the cement and the fences. It's a terrible thing that had happened. We were actually in Hyde Park, where Franklin Roosevelt actually decided that the bomb was going to have to be exploded in Nagasaki. There were other choices like Kyoto and among others, but Nagasaki, of course, was the second place where they dropped the bomb. Hiroshima was the first, which we're actually going to visit next on the trip. But it's really kind of a surreal experience being here, just because, you know, I learned in high school about the bomb being dropped over Nagasaki, but never really thought much of the city until actually coming here. We're actually here in Nagasaki, where a nuclear bomb actually exploded and killed a lot of people. So it's pretty sad, but at the same time, the city is still pretty lively.
The city is quite vibrant. There's a lot of shops and restaurants and things now. So places can rebuild if they have a culture of rebuilding and are willing to modernize as time goes on. So after the war, Japan adopted the right principles. They have a constitution written in English by the American officials at the time, and that, along with the great Japanese culture that happened after World War II, allowed for this to be a very prosperous and a very peaceful and great city. Well, actually, the whole country as a whole, there's just a great feeling here, because the people just really moved beyond that time period and rebuilt their country and focused on being a capitalistic and productive economy.
Today, you don't see any kind of hate for Americans or anything, that at least that I came across right here. I thought there would be, but I haven't noticed any. Maybe because enough generations have passed where it's not
I think
so
it's
close.
part of the Buddhist culture. They actually don't usually harbor that kind of hate, actually, because they feel there's a cycle, and their view is probably that cycle, it came and went, and energy flew, and now things are in harmony once again.
It's I must say, just being in this park is really kind of interesting. It's a surreal experience, in part just because you're right where the nuclear bomb exploded, and I don't think I've ever seen a city where, you know, you had this type of damage. I mean, we went to Ground Zero, but that was a lot different though, because that was not a bomb, that was a terrorist attack. But over here, you see all these layers.
I think it's
how far?
I think it represents like the bomb that tends to go. It tends to go like this, so you kind of see like you kind of almost see like the mound like it would bubble up and then. Is that what? Am I wrong on that? That's kind of what I'm imagining.
Hey, you can leave it in the comments if he's right. I don't think so.
A lot of people will say, "You're so stupid, Michael. You don't know what the hell you're talking about." Well, you're free to say that.
Okay. It is worth coming to Nagasaki. A lot of people come to Tokyo when they visit Japan, but it's worth taking the bullet train over to Tokyo just to see this area.
No, to Nagasaki.
Yeah, visit Nagasaki. Take some time, and you know, you kind of take in history a lot differently than just seeing it on TV or reading about it. But actually being here and seeing the artifacts, like the clock that stopped at 11:02, that's like the first thing you see is this clock.
It's actually the most amazing thing in the museum too.
Yeah.
A lot of other things that is like the things destroyed or burnt or.
Just if you think about it, it just shows you it's the exact time when that bomb hit. It never was gonna take again, but that the clock shows you exactly what time it was, though. Even though it was struck by the bomb, it wasn't so bad that you can't tell what time it was.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that it survived.
Especially when you have something that's been just harmed by it, but it's not completely gone. You still know it's a clock, and it has that exact time. It's really makes the museum experience quite. It creates a wow factor when you come in. Everybody's like, shh, shh, shh.
All right, we gotta go. It's starting to rain. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
A plaque by the Peace statue is titled words from the sculptor and reads, "After experiencing that nightmarish war, that blood-curdling carnage, that unendurable horror, who could walk away without praying for peace?" The statue was created as a signpost in the struggle for global harmony. Standing 10 meters tall, it conveys the profundity of the knowledge and the beauty of health and virility. The right hand points to the atomic bomb, the left hand points to peace, and the face prays deeply for the victims of war, transcending the barriers of race and evoking the qualities of Buddha and God. It is a symbol of the greatest determination ever known in the history of Nagasaki and the highest hope for all mankind. Sibo Kitamura, Spring 1955. At the south end of the park is a fountain. This was constructed in August 1969 as a prayer for the repose of the souls of the many atomic bomb victims who died searching for water and as a dedication to world peace. Lines from a poem by a girl named Sachiko Yamaguchi, who was 9 at the time of the bombing, are carved on a black stone plaque in front of the fountain. It reads, "I was thirsty beyond endurance. There was something oily on the surface of the water, but I wanted water so badly that I drank it just as it was." Coming here as an American, I initially thought that this would be awkward to be here. I thought there would be some sort of shaming for what the US did, but our experience was very pleasant. The Japanese locals were very warm and welcoming. It was really special to experience that and have that view turned upside down.
Thank you for using the Nagasaki ropeway today. Please enjoy your 1,100-meter-long, 5-minute trip through the sky to the 333-meter peak of Mount Inasa, which is equal to the height of Tokyo Tower. This gondola was designed by the world-famous industrial designer Ken Okuyama, who has also been a designer for Ferrari and the Hokoriko Shinkansen. Please enjoy the stylish exterior of this gondola and the view of Nagasaki from beyond its floor-to-ceiling glass windows. Please face the direction of the city.
長崎の街並みが次第に見えてまいりました。坂の町長崎と言われる複雑な地形に家々が密集して立つ斜面都市長崎の独特な様子がお分かりいただけるかと思います。さて、まもなく眼下に見えてまいります右手一帯が長崎の
Nagasaki had experienced 5 small air attacks which dropped a total of 270 tons of high explosives, 53 tons of incendiary, and 20 tons of fragmentation bombs during the 12 months prior to the nuclear bombing. While the damage was relatively small at the time, it created considerable concern in Nagasaki, and a number of people, principally school children, were evacuated to rural areas for safety, thus reducing the population in the city at the time of the atomic attack. The primary target for the bomb was Kokura, with the secondary target being Nagasaki, if the primary target was too cloudy to make a visual sighting. When the plane reached Kokura at 9:44 a.m., the city was obscured by clouds and smoke, as the nearby city of Yahata had been firebombed on the previous day. The steel plant in Yahata also had their workforce intentionally set fire to containers of coal tar to produce target-obscuring black smoke. Unable to make a bombing attack on visual due to the clouds and smoke and with limited fuel, the plane left the city at 10:30 a.m. for the secondary target. After 20 minutes, the plane arrived at 10:50 a.m. over Nagasaki, but the city was also concealed by clouds, desperately short of fuel, and after making a couple of bombing runs without obtaining any visual target, the crew was going to be forced to use radar to drop the bomb. At the last minute, the opening of the clouds allowed them to make visual contact with a racetrack in Nagasaki, and they dropped the bomb on the city's Urakami Valley, midway between the Mitsubishi Steel and Arms Works in the south and the Mitsubishi Urakami Ordnance Works in the north. More powerful than the one used at Hiroshima, the bomb weighed nearly 10,000 pounds and was built to produce a 22 kiloton blast. The topography of Nagasaki, which was nestled in narrow valleys between mountains, reduced the bomb's effect, limiting the destruction to 2.6 square miles. 53 seconds after its release, the bomb exploded at 11:02 a.m. at an approximate altitude of 1,800 feet. Less than a second after the detonation, the north of the city was destroyed and 35,000 people were killed, and a total of 74,000 were dead by the end of 1945. Both Fat Man and Little Boy were detonated in midair, hundreds of feet above the Earth's surface. As a result, the radioactive debris was taken aloft and dispersed by the mushroom cloud, rather than being drilled into the Earth. On the other hand, when reactors number 4 in Chernobyl melted down at ground level, the soil underwent neutron activation, where the already active neutrons in the burning fuel reacted with the soil, causing it to become radioactive. The bomb sites were intensely radioactive for the first few hours after the explosion, but thereafter the danger diminished rapidly. American scientists sweeping Hiroshima with Geiger counters a month after the explosion to see if the area was safe for occupation, troops found a devastated city but little radioactivity. Water lilies blackened by the blast had already begun to grow again, suggesting that whatever radioactivity there had been immediately following the blast had quickly dissipated. Only about 2 pounds of Little Boy's uranium actually reacted. Likewise, only about 2 pounds of Fat Man's plutonium underwent nuclear fission. However, at Chernobyl, at least 7 tons of nuclear fuel escaped into the atmosphere. Little Boy had around 140 pounds of uranium, Fat Man contained about 14 pounds of plutonium, and a reactor number 4 in Chernobyl had about 180 tons of nuclear fuel. The night view of Nagasaki was selected as the world's newest 3 biggest night scenes, alongside with Monaco and Hong Kong in 2012. Also, in 2015, along with Sapporo, where they make the famous beer, and Kobe, where they make the famous steak, was certified as the 3 major nightscape cities in Japan. The night view seen from Mount Inasa is called a night view of $10 million. A very good marketing gimmick. From the top of the mountain, you can get a 360-degree panoramic view of Nagasaki City, so it's worth visiting even if it's not a night view. I highly recommend you take the ropeway cable car to the top of the 1,093-foot mountain for easier access. It's a lot further to the top than it may appear. The cable car will take you a distance of about 3,500 feet and climb about 980 feet in elevation. The city has grown substantially from the around 240,000 near the time of the atomic bombing in 1945 to over 400,000 people in 2020. Here we are.
Konnichiwa.
We're in Nagasaki, and man, it's cold up here. I actually was dumb because I did this. We already did this video several hours ago, but I forgot to have the audio on because I was using the microphone and another video.
That's inside baseball. Yeah. Nobody cares. So anyway, we're up here on this mountain. It's really cold.
This is one way to end our trip.
But it has one of the world's best views, nighttime views.
The other ones are in Monaco and in Hong Kong. You take a tram up in Hong Kong and you have this great view. Over here, Nagasaki is also a great view, and they have a restaurant, which we just went to.
The food is not that amazing.
Yeah, it's not very good, but it's a damn good view, and you get to have, your food.
Ice cream.
So, it is what it is. And it's also better than a vending machine.
I suppose.
I was also going to say, after going to the Atomic Bomb Museum and the Peace Memorial, this is a great way to kind of end the trip in Nagasaki. We're going to Hiroshima tomorrow, and we're going to see more atomic bombing stuff, World War II history.
Yeah, considering this was the second spot for atomic bomb.
We're going in reverse order.
I really thought this would be the second city to visit, but it ended up being the first.
Yeah, Michael's still sick. I made him sick.
Yeah, he made me sick.
Okay, so
Anyway, the battery says
also
it's-
it is also very, very fun to take that cable car all the way up to the top of this mountain. Yesterday we were kind of dummies. You don't have enough light on you.
Oh, okay.
Yesterday we were dummies because we walked all the way to the top of this.
Almost to the top, and then
we
didn't get the
we
view.
had almost a similar view. It was free, but we were super exhausted. Make sure if you do come, you do route this not to just any ropeway cable car, because I routed it and it routed me to the top of the ropeway
real
here.
Brilliant, Google.
So thank you, Google, because you exhausted me, and yeah, I really wanted to walk all the way to the top.
Why would you want to start
I
at
wanted
the
to route it.
destination?
I wanted to route it to the bottom where you pick up the cable car, but Google thought I wanted to pick it up at the top so I could ride it down, which it was even closed for that, I think. So
Yeah.
okay, well, we're going to Hiroshima tomorrow. We've been having wet laundry in our bags for 3 days. So we have to
What
find a
if it's going
dryer.
to get moldy?
Yeah, better get that taken care of.
Are you ever going to make a video about that? How to
No.
wash clothes?
No,
I
definitely.
don't think anybody cares.
Okay.
長崎市では旧ブラザー住宅や羽島など8つの施設とさらに2018年には大浦電子道のほか12の区間で構成されている長崎と天草地方の潜伏キリシタン関連遺産が世界遺産に登録されました。世界遺産の町長崎についてもご注目いただきたいと思います。
Station. How was the Nagasaki night view, which is designated as one of the top 3 night views in the world, alongside Hong Kong and Monaco? I'm sure you enjoyed the 3-dimensional nightscape of this sloping city, which resembles the Milky Way. When it's an exceptionally clear day, you should be able to see not only Hiroshima, the World Heritage Site known as Gunkanjima, but also out to faraway Unzen, Amakusa, and the Goto Islands.
Okay, I'm gonna mail the smell to Aunt Molly in Nagasaki. We kept our Aunt Molly up to date with our travels on this trip with postcards like the one shown here with a generic looking picture at the top of Mount Inasa in Nagasaki. It's the old school way to share memories with the very few people still not on the internet, like her. It will only take about a week or so to get it delivered to the US at about the cost of 65 cents.
So there is a closing thought. One of the things we can think about with regard to wars is that you never really know what happens when you start one. It's an asymmetrical kind of environment where you're never going to know the results. So I'm sure when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, they had no idea what would actually come about. It's impossible to plan these things because there's a lot of randomness.
Precisely, that's why I'm wearing the Hawaiian shirt today. This is a kind of understanding of what caused us to bomb Nagasaki was Pearl Harbor. Japan did a lot of damage to the U.S. The U.S. strike back.
Now, very good friends.
Yeah. He actually visited Hyde Park where Franklin Roosevelt decided he was going to drop the bomb on Nagasaki. Another option was going to be...
It was Harry Truman who was the one. Oh, but he probably...
Yeah, he that's where it was decided.
Okay.
So-
Harry Truman was the one who actually made the decision, though.
Okay, but it was decided that Nagasaki would also be one of the choices of where the bomb would be exploded. Kyoto was another option, but they took that off.
Probably because they knew it was a beautiful area and they didn't want to destroy a beautiful
You're saying
area.
Nagasaki is not beautiful?
Not in the way that Kyoto was. Kyoto's just...
I don't think that was really
That wasn't
taken
the
into
reason.
account.
It might have been like General crossed it out.
Probably because it was more politically important to not do that to Kyoto. You know, a lot of people say Franklin Roosevelt was a great president, but he did a lot of damage. And I'm not saying that it was wrong that they dropped the bomb here, but it is a terrible thing that it did have to happen. He was the one that decided that we were going to drop the bomb.
And then the one who did drop the bomb was Harry Truman,
Right.
who is a Democrat, by the way. No Republican used the nukes.
Okay. So that's that, and we're going to be seeing Hiroshima and the next city. But definitely interesting to see this because it's like a surreal feeling being in a city where a nuclear bomb actually exploded. Especially just right behind us is Not somewhere you wanted to be in 1945 at 11:02, because that would have been, we would not be living.
We would not be around
No more.
if we were right here.
Radiation damage is terrible.
That marks the spot.
If you made it through this video, please give a like and subscribe so that you help with the YouTube algorithm bring you better content. Okay, we have to get a train because we're already gonna be late. We're going to Hiroshima. All right.